7 after 8 o'clock, news and views on Salam Media. Now, we understand that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has repeated his opposition to an independent Palestine state, saying his country needed full security control over Palestinian territories, rebuffing Joe Biden's stance on the issue. And Joe Biden's stance, obviously, is the two-state solution. A little while ago, when I spoke to Abir Zayad, an archaeologist based at Al Aqsa Masjid, she recently toured South Africa. She was of the opinion that Palestinian people were not interested in a two-state solution. They will reject it outright. What they wanting, what the Palestinian people is wanting, is to go back to the 1960, or rather pre-1967 borders. And if that is an offer, they would look at it and possibly agree on that offer. And this comes directly from a Palestinian. So, of course, as far as Western leaders are concerned, I'm not quite sure if their suggestions will be accepted or rebuffed by the Palestinians. But the situation we're sitting in currently is you kind of even wonder whether the Palestinians have a voice at all. I mean, the genocide has been unimaginable, and we also know there's a situation of ethnic cleansing. Let's hear what advocate Aslam Bava has to say about all of the comments and my statements this morning on the show. Assalamu alaikum to you. Welcome to the program, and I'm really pleased that you have joined us this morning on Salam Media.
Wa alaikum salam, Julie, and salam to your listeners. Yes, it is a very interesting topic, but it's one that needs a bit of prodding as far as the historical basis is concerned. And here, more particularly, the history of Zionism plays a fundamental role. So the Palestinians, currently, from my reading and understanding, obviously, at the end of the day, the determination of how they want a state, whether it's a two-state solution or a single state, is to be determined by the Palestinians and by no other. So the issue of a one-state solution is very similar to what we have in South Africa, saying that it needs to be governed, all the people need to live in one country as equals, governed by a constitution, so a constitutional democracy in that sense. You know, democracy has now been tarnished with the conduct of since the Iraq War and even before. But if we are to look at the current position, Benjamin Netanyahu's refusal to have even a two-state solution is nothing new. The Zionists' philosophy from the first Zionist Congress in 1897, and then the Second Zionist Congress in 1898, already determined that they did not want anybody else, any Palestinians living within the area which they demarcated as west of the Jordan River. So what we do have is Benjamin Netanyahu even boasting to his constituency that if you do not elect me again, no one will give you the entire area free of Palestinians. And this is the ethnic cleansing that is not new. You know, they have a clip of Netanyahu talking in secret around about 2010, where he indicated that, you know, don't worry, we need to go in as hard as possible, punish the Palestinians to a point that they can no longer stand the punishment. And, the person asked him, what do you say about the Americans when they want to stop you? And he says, no, don't worry, don't worry about the Americans. We've got them under control. So it was his private video, which is also circulating. The issue is very simply this: the Palestinians, all they're seeking is treat us as human beings, allow us to live on our land, which you claim you have a right 3,000 years and more back uh, of this land. Now, that is a fallacy, because if you look at Zionism, and if you just study a bit about Theodore Herzl, who came out with the book that he wrote, Der Judenstaat, it is evident that he was an atheist himself. He did not want to promote the Jewish religion. He wanted an assimilation of Jews into Christian Europe and into the colonial structures. And you also find what is prevalent is the ideology that this is all brought about and comes about in a time when Zionism and Nazism and colonialism were all accepted norms within European society. And this philosophy of Zionism is no different. It is, to my mind, a combination of Nazism, where it talks of a superior race, and it also has the colonial mentality of taking over land that did not belong to the Zionists, and claiming it on the basis of a biblical right, which, by the way, at the time that the Balfour Declaration was signed or was given over to Rothschild in 1917, the Jewish people at that stage, who were Palestinian, by the way, only occupied 3% of the land. So for a party to come in and say, we are claiming on the basis of a biblical right, they are exploiting the biblical right as a pretext to stealing land. So this has become a very important aspect. And the Palestinians obviously have gained the admiration the world over for their resilience and for being subjected to such oppression for over 75 years, have not given up, and their faith and their iman has grown. And it's when we look at those brothers and sisters, and we look at the resistance that they've put up, they've become a complete inspiration to the world over.
Absolutely. You talk about, and this is a well known fact, that there were Jews inhabiting the land of Palestine hundreds and thousands of years ago. But the percentage, Marv, as you rightly say, was just 3% of Jews. My question then is, surely those were not European Jews, blue eyed and blonde haired. They were probably brown skinned like you and I, brown skinned Jewish people that inhabited that land. So, what gives European Jewry or Zionists the right to claim the land as theirs and then create genocide of unseen precedents, I think, in recent history, and ethnic cleansing? We haven't seen these type of atrocities being played out in recent times, have we? It's shocking, and yet the Western world seems to be pretty silent on this. They're allowing this genocide to continue. Is it about not wanting to get involved? Is it about their bilateral relations that they don't want to sour with Jewish people, Jewish empires, the Americans, the British, the Europeans, etc.? Does it all boil down to money, control, and power?
Yes, Julie, that is very interesting. I mean, if you look at the 3% of the Jewish population that occupied Palestine in around about 1917, like I said, were Palestinian. Not only that, there is an indication that throughout history that Jews converted either to Islam or Christianity, and that the Palestinians from their genealogy, in fact, some of them, those descendants from Jewish people then. But what has happened is currently um, there are multiple layers that exist regarding the current occupation and why Europe and the US don't want to do anything, and why they, in fact, not only are remaining neutral, they in fact participating on the part of Israel and Zionism. The issue is fundamentally this: that Israel has become a tool in many respects. Firstly, as the control of the oil resources of the Arab countries. We know that both Israel and the United States and NATO, but more particularly US, the United States and Israel, are stealing oil from Iraq, with with un, unlimited, and in fact the economies are reliant on the theft of those resources. There are also, discussions about gas resources. So firstly, it is an economic element, but it is an element based on theft. In fact, very interestingly, the United States, from the Second World War, has engaged in so many wars that its existence as a financial entity is premised upon it carrying out wars in the world and controlling governments. We know that the United States has over 850 military bases throughout the world. So that's 850. And these aspects of control on the economic front are important. But what have they used? And one sits back and asks oneself the question, why is it that Europe and the United States governments are so complicit? Well, the two aspects is, one is the European countries and the US want to make up for the anti-Semitism that they brought about in respect of the Jewish population in Europe. And you will recall that while that was going on in Europe, in the Muslim countries and the Arab countries, Jews and Muslims and Christians were living peacefully. So they have taken their sin, as it were, and want to pay penance for it. But in doing so, they're sacrificing the rights of the Palestinians, and they're throwing the Palestinians under the bus. And they are also afraid of being accused of doing what they did in the Second World War. So you will also recall that the UK, that Britain at that stage didn't want Jewish people to emigrate from Poland, from Germany, and from the Eastern European countries into the UK. And in fact, they into Britain, they in fact blocked them. And this, anti-Semitism was therefore rife. But the financial aspect that you raise is very important. It is what they term a neo-colonialism. It is, you will see that, the point is very simply, if one just sits back, why would the United States go and arm Israel? And why would the United States and the United Kingdom start fighting against the Houthis, who are trying to stop a genocide? So it is clear that there is a financial design in respect of the region, and they're trying to reorganize the region financially.
Okay, we need to go for an ad break, but your response has obviously triggered so many other questions in my mind, and we do need to cover those. You talk about 850 military bases globally. Obviously, America has to fund them. How do they fund them? Their armaments industry, they need to keep their economy going. I'd like your thoughts on that. What about the Balfour Accord? At this point in history, surely the United Kingdom should be held accountable for the mischief they created in Palestine with the signing of the Balfour Accord and splitting that country and giving Zionists the upper hand over the Palestinian people. And I'm also wondering about collective white guilt, which is driving the situation that we find ourselves currently in. So all of that and more, I'll await your response right after the ad break. Please stand by.
Day by day. This is Salam Media.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
After the recent attacks on Gaza, many families have been displaced with their homes left destroyed. Through your donations, our teams are on the ground in Gaza, providing support and delivering necessary aid to families affected. The people of Gaza need your help. Give hope. Donate today to Penny Appeal South Africa. www.pennyappeal.org.za 031 1100 573.
We are here on the ground with many appeal organizations in Gaza.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness. And every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
Sponsor an orphan, and you'll help support a vulnerable child to have the education they've always dreamed of, so they can build a brighter future. You'll be feeding a hungry stomach and a hungry mind with knowledge that will last them a lifetime. That's the power of an education. Sponsor an orphan now with Islamic Relief.
With so many investment options today, it's only natural that you might feel a little confused which route to take. Should I buy shares or should I invest in gold bullion? Randery Jewelers now brings you the Zahab coin, an alternative to the Kruger Rand. The Zahab coin, a solid wealth protector in its purest form of 24-karat gold, is the safest way to protect your wealth. So don't just sit there and watch your paper money depreciate. Change to gold. Call Randery Jewelers now at 031 202 4701 or visit www.rjcoin.co.za, situated at 151 Essenwood Road, Musgrave, Durban. Randery Jewelers, the family name you can trust. Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome back. It is exactly 8:26 a.m. News and views on Salam Media. Our first guest of the morning is Advocate Aslam Bava, Senior Counsel. We're talking about the Palestinian situation. And I have given him a whole host of questions to respond to after the ad break, but I also need to get something else in here. And we understand that Biden spoke to Netanyahu on Friday about a possible solution for the creation of an independent Palestinian state, suggesting one path could involve a non-militarized government. So that seems to be on the cards as well. Not sure if it's going to gain momentum at all. So it's back to you, Advocate Aslam Bava.
Yeah, I think that's very important to note in that the Israelis want to control, and Netanyahu particularly wants to control all of the region west of the Jordan River. Sorry, and in this regard, he is adamant that he wants to ethnically cleanse the area. And if they do have Palestinians, they want Palestinians to be a nation that lives in subjugation forever. They do not want the Palestinians to have autonomy. So they, similarly to what they have done in Gaza for the last 17 years, they have controlled the airspace, they've controlled the seas, they've controlled the land area surrounding the camp. Obviously, we know it's termed as the largest open air prison in the world. And this is what the intention is that if we do keep you, we will keep you caged and you will dance to the tune, to our tune, and we will not allow you to exist independently. You will be dependent on what we say. And we know that currently, not only are all of those aspects controlled, but we also have a control of the borders to the extent of what goes into Gaza, what comes out, and what, for example, when Nelson Mandela was freed, he flew to Gaza and he landed at the airport in Gaza, and after that, the Israelis bombed the airport. So we know that that the current situation is that Netanyahu's entire aim is to drive the Palestinians out of Gaza. The plan has always been that they will drive the Gaza into the Sinai or into Egypt, and they will move all of the Palestinians from the West Bank into Jordan. So that has been the grand design, and obviously they always referred to it as a conspiracy theory, but now we see with our own eyes that this is actually the plan, that Netanyahu speaks about it openly, knowing that there's going to be no repercussions from all the international powers that be. But inshallah, with the polarity changing in the world and it becoming from a unipolar power base, being the United States, to a multipolar where China, Russia, Iran, and Turkey have now come on very strongly, we are hoping that inshallah that this will change the dynamic. But the idea of Zionism is to clear the entire area of Palestine, parts of Saudi Arabia, parts of Syria, parts of Lebanon, and much of Jordan, to be part of the greater Israel concept. And this has been promoted by the right wing, and Netanyahu is within the right wing, but he is a very, very evil person, and that he is the current Hitler in the world. And stating from what he has done there, it's it's just unfathomable that human beings and political powers would allow this to happen. But what it does tell us is that because they're allowing it, and because they're allowing massacres and genocide to be perpetrated, they have no respect for human life. Human life is not something that they look at very dearly. They do not have, it's what the Palestinians have done in terms of their resistance, and more particularly the incursion on the 7th of October, which was a military incursion and which they're trying to turn into something else. It has also shown the fallacy of what they termed freedom of the press, freedom of speech. For example, freedom of the press was negated by CNN, BBC, CNBC, Fox News, when South Africa presented its case at the ICJ. They did not televise that. And the next day, when Israel presented its case, that was televised by all of those stations. So it shows that what they are doing is that they want a particular narrative to be promoted. You see that on Facebook. You also see it on social media where Palestinian voices are being silenced, including on X, which is Twitter, and where Elon Musk had indicated that he wanted a freedom of speech, freedom of expression. But suddenly you're finding a curtailment and a high level of censorship. So at the end of the day, the two-state solution is something that they are saying that if the Palestinians exist, they will exist in a Bantustan that Israel will control, and that it will exist on no other basis. And they preference, the first is that they want the Palestinians to go. But the positive thing is, when you listen to the Palestinians, is that Allah has given them such strength in Iman and such strength in their courage that they will not abandon Masjid al-Aqsa, and they will not abandon their rights to the land. So inshallah, what we see sometimes may be a deception, and inshallah there's a bigger plan.
Inshallah, Ameen. A few responses to the questions I put to you before the break. The Balfour Accord. Can Palestine and the global South hold the British culpable in some way for the Balfour Accord? Because had it not been for the Balfour Accord, I don't think you and I'd be sitting and talking about the situation.
Yes, so the Balfour Declaration was signed in was rather submitted by Balfour, they call him Lord Balfour, to Rothschild in 1917. And the interesting thing about that is that in 1917, Britain did not have the mandate over Palestine. That only came about in 1918. So at the time that Balfour promised the Palestine to Rothschild, it did not have the mandate, and there is no indication that was ever ratified by the British Parliament. So it could be argued that Balfour Declaration itself was not a binding instrument internationally. But be that as it may, I mean, many years have passed, and some people have said that, well, perhaps just knowing that fact, indicates the deviousness. Until 1920.
Oh. Okay, we seem to have lost Advocate Aslam Bava talking about the genocide in Palestine, the collusion of the global North, and a whole host of issues. Really a sad state of affairs. Okay, there he is. He's back with us again. We had lost you. We seem to have lost him again. We'll try one more time to reconnect, because I do think it's really very important to wrap up. I'm just trying to get some indication from the controller, the engineer there, if we can manage to get Advocate Aslam Bava back online. There he is. Thank you indeed for coming back. We just have a few minutes more with you, and I'd like you to kind of summarize what we've been talking about. Advocate Aslam Bava, can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can now. We'd lost you there for
Hello?
a minute.
Yeah. Okay.
we are coming to the end of the interview, but I'm going to hand over to summarize. I made quite a number of statements and comments. I'd like you to respond to that. I did want to talk about the ICJ and other countries coming on board, but unfortunately, we don't have enough time for that. Hopefully, we can have more discussions in the future. But regarding the Balfour Accord.
Yes, so I don't know where I got cut off, but I was talking
There was no
about
mandate. Yes, there was no mandate
there was
to
no
the
mandate,
British people. Yep.
and the Caliphate under the Ottoman Empire existed until 1922. So if you go to, for example, in Johannesburg, you go to the Muslim cemetery in Braamfontein, you will see that there was actually ambassadors throughout the world, and the Caliphate had that, and it destroyed the Caliphate. So the British took it over from the Ottomans, but they only occupied the area on the basis of a mandate, and that mandate as well. Whatever was held by the United Nations in 1948, where it gave Israel the portion of the land, that area is also not respected by Israel. So Israel has breached the 1948 United Nations demarcation of the land, and many in the Palestinians have indicated that they would be prepared to look at the 1967 border and perhaps go before that. But Israel has acquired land which can be challenged, in that it is being challenged. The issue is that there are also practical considerations. The ideal would be for there to be a one-state solution where there is a constitution. By the way, Israel, regarding itself as the only democracy in the Middle East, and it touts that throughout, does not even have a constitution. And it, in fact, had a draft constitution drawn up, but it simply refuses to adopt a constitution. And we know why it would not adopt a constitution, because it is a human rights violator. It would then be held to the constitution. But and you see the recent move by Netanyahu, and that has been the entire protest that occurred in Israel, where they wanted to control what the courts say and do, and they wanted to have the right to override decisions of the courts, because the courts have given very few judgments that go against Israel, but against the government, but they also want to curtail that aspect. So yes, there are international challenges to this. It is a colonial and settler occupation of Palestine, and we can only keep on praying. To us, as Muslims, we just need to continue and increase our du'as and our prayers in any and every way possible, and to assist the Palestinians in every possible way.
Advocate Aslam Bava, I do wish we had more time, but we will try and get you back on the show again sometime soon to talk about a whole host of issues, other issues that we've not covered on the show this morning. But thank you indeed for your deep insights. I thoroughly enjoyed talking with you this morning. And as you rightly say, we continue keeping the Palestinians in our ongoing du'as, inshallah, and let's not undermine the power of a sweet sabr and collective du'a, inshallah. Thank you once again. Assalamu alaikum to you.
Thank you, Judy. Wa alaikum salam.
It is exactly 8:41 a.m. News and views on Salam Media. We're going for an ad break, and when we get back, we are going to be joined by Yasmina Frank, the CEO of Sanzaf.